with Carney, we're talking about a guy who was a ice hockey goalie.
Yeah.
You know, that takes nerves of steel. And when you've got these hard pucks coming at your head at 100 miles an hour. So yeah, he's got a story that he can draw on.
Absolutely, and being a goalie in any sport shows you've kept your ego in check as well, doesn't it? John Iveson, we're going to leave it there for the time being. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. That's Canadian political commentator John Iveson, who knows the incoming Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, pretty well. And John Sparks, thank you to you as well. I know you're going to stay with me. I think, actually, let's just wait for a second, but I think things are happening here in Ottawa as we're seeing live pictures. We're about to leave them, but let's stay with them for a little bit longer, because if you're just joining us, this is Mark Carney, the next Prime Minister of Canada, about to be sworn in the capital, Ottawa. Of course, he took over as leader of Canada's Liberal Party from the outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who's been in the job for nigh on a decade. But he's unlikely to sit still. He doesn't have a mandate, effectively, because he's not been elected a seat in the House of Commons in Canada, so that's what is likely to happen next. It could be a fairly short tenure. And there is the man himself, Mark Carney, not long off 60. Be familiar to many Brits, of course. He was Governor of the Bank of England for a while, and previously Governor of the Bank in Canada as well, certainly helping the Canadian economy steer through the difficulty of the financial crisis of the late 2000s. Let's hear what's going on.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Ken McKillop, and I'm the Secretary to the Governor-General. I would like to welcome everybody to Rideau Hall today for the swearing-in of the 24th Prime Minister of Canada and the 30th Canadian Ministry. I'd like to take a moment to share with you a traditional activity that was initiated just prior to the beginning of the ceremony, the lighting of the hulik, a traditional Inuit lamp. This lamp is used in the north to bring light and warmth to the home. We light the hulik to mark important events such as today's ceremony. And we are grateful for the presence of Elder Canon Iga Atikutsiak from Arctic Bay, who lit the hulik and will remain and maintain its light and warmth throughout the ceremony. Nakumik. J'aimerais maintenant inviter l'aîné algonquin Verna McGregor à prononcer ces mots de bienvenue.
Kwe kakina. Bonjour tout le monde. Hello, everybody. Very honored to be here today, and I'd like to welcome you to our traditional unceded lands here, and I'm very honored, Your Excellency, for the invitation. I do many openings for constituents in Ottawa here, but I always talk about the significance here because this is so special for us as Algonquin. We're known as the Mamaninawak, the nomads, and we're known for the birch bark canoe. And we would meet here in the summer prior to contact to talk about what's going on the land. But this confluence here is very special because it represents balance of the four directions, the four seasons, the four stages of your life. And so, and I find it interesting that Parliament and Rideau Hall and all the government headquarters are located here, because I think this is special too as well for leadership. And I'm honoring the new leader today too as well. And I was thinking about you today. I said it's like the geese, and you have the head, the person at the head, Ganiganich, and they face the head waters. And I think we're in for always challenges, but even more so today. So I'm going to honor you and all of you with a little opening prayer and thanking everybody. And so I say miigwech. Ojeni gashkito, jama maundose konshe nongo mame kakina ni ganich. Shwemishno na because miigwech onje kakina gagishen ta noje mam deke nindekimenon. Shkaiki question kaso nindekimenon. We don't kakina pamaze konje nagado amdan kakina guch nindekimenon. Mam deke nishna be ki Migwa chonje kakina ete kijigo, kizis to be kizis a shichanungshuk, we do konanokamis non on jay nogado abdan kakina gujia nibi, a shich nimishomsanon, kizis on jay nogado abdan kakina gujia, pamad sajik the niswa gonshe, Migwa chonje na sewen, kaki mijin, chimino pamad sian on jay. We do kwa kakinan and Jinoan Daganak, Nimashomsinan, the Gokmisnan, a Shitch Nidon Denis, Oje, non Gomonje, the Bashka Dagama, Kamashe Denis, Wagonje, a Shitch Kakinan and Jinoan Daganak, and Wesi Sak, Mitigog, Mijaski, Mashkiki, Kakina Gagijendan. Kacheshquat Negwe de Seaman, Kego Gajeman, Doshit Kan, and Ojgush Negwe de Seaman, we do kwa Kakina, Mom de Gay, we wissen a jig, the Mogas a jig, Akas a jig, Kaye, we me God with jig, non com, Chuana Ki watch, Chimino Pamadzu watch. Miigwech. I say miigwech 4 times to honor again the 4 directions, the 4 seasons, the 4 stages of our lives. We come from spirit and we return back to spirit. We come from the earth, we return back to the earth. And in my prayer, what I'm saying is, I'm thanking everybody to coming together here. And always a reminder too, as well, to look after the earth. Because again, one of the teachings is that we were all given the original instructions to look after the earth, because we all share the earth, we share the water, we share the air, and the fire of the sun, our internal fires. So that's why, again, Gani Ganich, the one in front, it has a big responsibility. And that's why we're having this ceremony today. So, miigwech everybody, and have a good day. Merci. Merci à tous.
That was a member of the Indigenous community, an Indigenous Canadian, essentially blessing the ceremony where Mark Carney will be sworn in, a member of the Algonquin First Nation. I think one of the interesting things, another interesting thing is that the Governor General in this ceremony, who will swear Mark Carney in, she is Indigenous as well. She's an Inuit. You can see her there on the right of your screen with the blue suit nodding. Her name's Mary Simon. Her mother is an Inuit from the Arctic, what we would previously have called Eskimo, but they don't use that word anymore, so we don't. She grew up in northern Quebec, had a traditional youth, hunting, fishing, traveling by sled dog. There we can see Mark Carney, so he will be sworn in shortly.
Moi, Mark Carney, je jure fidélité et sincère allégeance à Sa Majesté le roi Charles III, roi du Canada, à ses héritiers et successeurs. I, Mark Carney, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty, King Charles III, King of Canada, his heirs and successors. Moi, Mark Carney, je jure solennellement et sincèrement que j'agirai en fidèle et loyal serviteur de Sa Majesté le roi Charles III, en ma qualité de membre du Conseil privé de Sa Majesté pour le Canada. J'exprimerai fidèlement, honnêtement et en toute vérité mon sentiment et mon opinion sur toutes choses traitées, débattues et résolues en Conseil. Je tiendrai secret tout ce qui me confie ou révélé en cette qualité, ou tout ce dont il sera traité secrètement en Conseil. J'agirai en toutes circonstances comme il convient à une fidèle et loyale serviteur de Sa Majesté. I, Mark Carney, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I shall be a true and faithful servant to His Majesty King Charles III, as a member of His Majesty's Privy Council for Canada. I will, in all things, to be treated, debated, and resolved in Privy Council, faithfully, honestly, and truly declare my mind and my opinion. I shall keep secret all matters committed and revealed to me in this capacity, or that shall be secretly treated of in Council. Generally, in all things I shall do as a faithful and true servant ought to do for His Majesty. Moi, Mark Carney, je promets et jure solennellement et sincèrement qu'au mieux de ma compétence et de ma connaissance, j'écouterai loyalement et fidèlement les pouvoirs et je m'acquitterai des responsabilités qui m'ont été confiées en qualité de Premier ministre. I, Mark Carney, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will truly and faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trust reposed in me as Prime Minister.
This is Mark Carney being sworn in as Prime Minister of Canada. John Sparks is here with me in the studio too. A ripple of applause in the room, John, in Ottawa. And this is him, John, is it confirming he's taken the job by signing in there?
Yeah, he's just said an oath of loyalty to King Charles III. Now he's putting pen to paper, signing up, proof that there is a future after being the Governor of the Bank of England, isn't it? It's life doesn't stop to the Bank of England.
The Prime Minister and the Governor General.
My French is no great shakes, but I think we can gather he's not a Quebecois, is he? He's from the north of Canada.
I think we can gather. I'm sure there were fluent French speakers holding their ears during that. That is a liability for him. He's not a French speaker, and the second most populous province is Quebec. He will have to speak French, and I'm sure that he is taking French lessons as we speak. But you can see that that didn't come naturally to him. Canada is a bilingual country. You need to speak English and you need to speak French. So that's one of those tasks he's going to have to master quickly in the next few weeks.
And I'm guessing, I don't know, but the leader of the Conservatives, given he has a French surname, is probably...
He is fluent, yeah. He is from Western Canada, but he does speak French fluently. So yeah, that will be something that he'll have to take on and improve and be seen to be making an effort to improve. But it's pretty low key, isn't it? It's this is like a sort of Canada-style inauguration, U.S. inauguration ceremony. There's not that much hoopla, standing ovation, but obviously you couldn't have this outside in Ottawa at this time of year. It's just too cold.
Fair enough.
Nobody's got their parkas on.
No, it's not like the changing of prime ministers you often see. Well, see more often than not in recent years in Downing Street. They're coming and going, the big crowds. The questions being thrown at them, the lectern outside. It's not like that, you're right, relatively low-key.
Yeah. Mary Simon, the woman in blue, sitting next to him, she is the King's representative in Canada. But it's much more open, it's much less formal. There's no private meeting between her and Mark Carney. You can see that it's all being done. This is Dominic LeBlanc. He is the finance minister.
President of the King's Privy Council for Canada.
Swearing an oath. Mark Carney, he slimmed down the cabinet. He's jettisoned a few of Justin Trudeau's cabinet members, trying to give it a fresh look. Try and make it look, look and feel different. But Dominic LeBlanc, he will have a big role to play in terms of negotiating tariffs and putting on retaliatory tariffs with the Trump administration. And one of the reasons for keeping him in place, because he was Trudeau's finance minister, equivalent of Chancellor of the Exchequer, was because he's got the contacts in Washington. He knows who to pick up the phone to, and that's one reason why they've kept him on. But he'll be under a lot of pressure in the days and weeks ahead.
Let's bring back in Canadian political commentator John Iveson, who is still with us. John, what do you make of proceedings so far? As you expected, I'm sure, but now the man you know so well on the right of the screen there, Mark Carney, is Prime Minister. Your reaction?
Well, there are a lot of familiar faces appearing next to him. So Dominic LeBlanc's been part of the government for the last 9 years, was Finance Minister. I think he's now come in as International Trade. I'm not sure if that was stated there, but you know, I think Carney's challenge is that he has to make a break with the Trudeau years, but obviously he's constrained by what he can do as far as cabinet. I mean, you don't throw away all that experience. Mélanie Joly, I think, is Foreign Affairs Minister, will still be Foreign Affairs Minister. She's obviously built up from the way. I don't want to pass away. So that is a challenge for him. How do you appear different from Trudeau, but yet all the people around you are the same ones?
The other thing, John, that we touched on here in the studio is he's not a natural French speaker. He read out the oath there in French to Charles III, King Charles III, of course. So he's got a bit of catching up to do there. And also, he is a different generation to his opponent, Pierre Poilievre, who was born in the late 70s, whereas Mark Carney, as you said to us earlier, is about to turn 60. So there are quite a few differences between the two men.
Yeah, I mean, Poilievre, his French is probably better, but politically, I would say Carney is more aligned with Quebec. Poilievre has had a hard time winning support in Quebec. The Conservative Party has never made a breakthrough there. It's always been the third party behind the Bloc Québécois, the separatists and the Liberals. So that kind of evens things up a little bit. As far as the generational thing, I mean, Poilievre has been an MP since he was 26, 25 even, and has done very little else. So while he can position himself as maybe younger and more vigorous, I mean, Mark's a marathon runner, so he's not quite in his dotage yet. But there is this knock on him that Poilievre has never really done anything outside of politics, whereas, you know, this other guy's got a resume as long as your arm.
Yeah, he certainly has. We're just seeing others being sworn in to their respective offices as well. Big grin on Mark Carney's face. John Iveson, did he always covet this job, or is this just something that's come around at the right time for him?
No, this is something that's been in his mind for more than a decade. He thought about running for the Liberal leadership when Trudeau won it and was all set to do so, but the rules changed such that Liberal membership became free. 2 billion Facebook followers, you were going to win it. And Trudeau did, and he did. So he, I mean, I think he turned down the Bank of England once and then decided to go for that job. So politics has been in his mind for a long, long time. And there's a key passage in his book that says, you know, I've watched events unfold, but I have had a limited ability to influence them. And I think that is pushed him to do what he's doing now.
Yes. It does make you wonder, John Sparks, if Donald Trump will call and congratulate him.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's an important question. I think one interesting thing so far is that Trump hasn't disparaged Carney yet. I mean, he hasn't called Mark Carney Governor Carney yet. I think that is interesting. Also, Carney has shown himself to be, well, he's not trying to get too close to Trump at the moment. He said that he's prepared to have a meeting or meetings with Trump if Trump is prepared to respect Canadian sovereignty. So right off the bat, you've got Mark Carney setting conditions for a meeting with Donald Trump. So I'm not sure how that would go on. And that is certainly targeted at the domestic audience in Canada, who are furious at the moment. You know, English-speaking Canadians, you know, particularly have a real affinity with the states, as they would call it, and a lot of them feel betrayed. You know, they're taking this personally, and Mark Carney has to respect that in the electoral process. He's got to reflect that, but he also needs to work a deal with Trump, because you could be looking at up to 1 million job losses if you had blanket tariffs right across right across the board. So it's a real balancing act for him. It's difficult.
John Iverson, I mean, could it be worse than those job losses? If the US really wanted to, it could crush Canada's economy. You mentioned how 80% of Canada's trade is with the US. It's not going to be able to diversify quickly enough if the US wants to make life very difficult for the incoming or the new Prime Minister, Mark Carney. Things could be a lot worse than just job losses. It could almost force them into what Donald Trump wants, couldn't it?
Well, in the worst case scenario, but I think we're a long way from that yet. Carney, I think, is absolutely correct. You can't negotiate with somebody to say that the border between the two countries is an artificial one. It was drawn up a long time ago by people we don't know anything about, and the border should be erased. I mean, you can't sit down and talk to somebody when that's his mindset. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon, except for the fact that, you're talking about job losses in the auto trade, for example. Well, we take a look at General Motors' stock price in the last couple of months, or Ford. They can't just up sticks and move and build a brand new factory overnight. I mean, it would take 3 or 4 years, according to them, plus billions of dollars. This is going to hurt the Americans too. Every tariff is being paid by Americans, not being paid by Canadians. So there's pain on both sides, and I think there's a lot of pressure on Trump to form some kind of deal. And there is a face-saving deal here, because the trade deal between Canada and Mexico and the US was up for renegotiation next year anyway. So you just come back, he could come back and say, well, we want to just have another go at this. And Canada, I think, would say, right, let's go.
I think that's right. I mean, Canada is vulnerable, but it's vulnerable in this situation, but it's not helpless. And if you look at exports of oil and gas, which make up a big chunk of those exports that Canada sends to the United States, you're looking at roughly about 30% of all those exports are oil and gas. That oil comes, for the most part, from northern Alberta, from the tar sands. It's called heavy oil, and it needs specialist refineries that are set up in the Midwestern states, in the Midwestern United States, to refine that oil. They're geared up, they've got the infrastructure to refine that oil in the United States. At the moment, Trump's put a 10% tariff on that. That's going to put the price up for millions and millions of Americans when it comes to their gas, their petrol. If the tariff goes up higher, either through retaliatory tariffs or whether Trump decides to put those prices up, I mean, it's going to hurt. I mean, people in the United States are going to feel it. And, that's something that Canadians are going to have to selectively use if this crisis continues. They're going to have to certainly consider using tariffs on energy to really make their point.
John Iverson, in response to what has been happening, we've seen more outward patriotism, if you like, from Canadians, the kind of booing and blowing whistles at hockey games and that kind of thing. Is that something that Mark Carney and any other politician, by the way, who would like to be Prime Minister, will be tapping into?
I think he'll be tapping into it, but I think he'll be sensible. I mean, you can go overboard with that. And I think that the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, nearly went overboard with it by he was going to put a 25% tariff on electricity exports to the US. You've got to be a little bit careful here. I think if you are resolute but not inflammatory, and Carney's not the type of personality who's going to stick and poke the bear just for kicks. I mean, this is serious business. This is existential, and I don't think you mess around. You are dignified. You stand your ground, but you don't try and make things worse.
Yeah, don't poke the bear, as you mentioned there. But maybe Canada's just been a bit complacent about the bear that does live next door. We've seen from a European point of view the accusations of complacency when it comes to defence spending. And a lot of people seem to think, well, in that regard, Donald Trump has done Europe a favour and so got it to wake up from a sort of post-Cold War slump. Do you think that's the case with Canada being slightly complacent about as you say, the bear next door?
Absolutely. I mean, Canada's defensive spending is a kind of national disgrace. It's still around 1.37%.
Yeah, so it's below the 2% that NATO requires, of
Current
course.
government has talked about getting there by 2030. Carney is talking about 2030. That is just not going to fly. It's just not anything that anybody in Washington is going to put up with. We really have been free riding. We're not even defending our own north. And at the very least, and he's going to have to start spending more money we're already committed to buying the F-35 fighter plane and extending runways and building hangars and so on and so forth. And we've committed to sensors over the north to protect missiles coming in. But there needs to be a lot more, and that 2030 target needs to be brought forward.
If you're just joining us, this is the ceremony swearing in other members of Mark Carney's government. He, on the left there, has just been sworn in as the new Prime Minister of Canada, leader of the Liberal Party, taking over from Justin Trudeau. And this is all happening in Ottawa, inside, because as John Iveson, our guest, Canadian political commentator, said, it'd be too cold to do it outside in Canada this time of year. Makes sense to me. John Sparks is here with me in the studio as well. A question for you both, and John Sparks, I'm going to come to you first. No sign of Justin Trudeau there. Is that a surprise?
John may know better than me. I was expecting him to tender his official resignation at this ceremony, but that has clearly happened already. Justin Trudeau will be looking forward, thinking about his new life to be. That's quite an interesting thought.
Time with the family he wants.
Well, yeah, that's right. Three children. But yeah, it's certainly a new chapter for him, and he's relatively young.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll be short of offers, and he has made a typically emotional goodbye statement as well to Canadians. He said it was the honour of his life, and he told Canadians to stay strong. They were about to come into a serious crisis. He inferred, but they would have to stay strong and to weather it. But I mean, it's not his problem now, ultimately, and arguably that may be a good thing for Canada, because the fact is, he rubbed Donald Trump up the wrong way, and we've also seen in the background there in the benches at Rideau Hall, which is the home of the Governor General, the official home of Governor General Chrystia Freeland, who was the finance minister under Trudeau. Trump really disliked her as well, and said so publicly. They were both involved in the renegotiation of the NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, which Trump renegotiated in 2019, I believe. And he didn't like Trudeau, and he didn't like Freeland. So Canadians were tough and unfair negotiators. So yeah, Justin Trudeau, he's ultimately consigned to Canadian political history, and I think we won't see him again in any form, I don't think, in a political sense.
John Sparks in the studio, and our guest John Iveson joining us remotely as well. Thank you both very much indeed. We're going to just leave that there as others are being sworn in Ottawa. We've seen Mark Carney being sworn in as the new Prime Minister of Canada this afternoon. Next, Donald Trump has called ceasefire talks with Vladimir.
J'exécuterai loyalement et fidèlement les pouvoirs et je m'acquitterai des responsabilités qui m'ont été confiées en qualité de ministre des Transports et du Commerce intérieur.
The Honourable Kamal Khera, Minister of Health. L'Honorable Kamal Khera, Ministre de la Santé.
do solemnly and sincerely promise and declare that I will truly and faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trust reposed in me as Minister of Health. Thank you.
The Honourable Gary Anandasangri, Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada and Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations and Northern Affairs. L'Honorable Gary Anandasangri, Ministre de la Justice et le Procureur général du Canada et le Ministre des Relations courantes autochtones et des Affaires du Nord.
I, Gary Anandasangri, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will truly and faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trust reposed in me as Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada and Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations and Northern Affairs. As Minister of Justice, I will see that the administration of public affairs is in accordance with the law. As Attorney General of Canada, I will uphold the Constitution, the rule of law, and the independence of the judiciary and of the prosecutorial function. Moi, Gary Anandasangri, je promets et jure, solemnement et sincèrement, comme mieux de ma compétence et ma conscience, j'exécuterai loyalement et fidèlement le pouvoir et je m'acquitterai des responsabilités qui m'ont été confiées en qualité de ministre de la Justice et procureur général du Canada et ministre des Relations courantes autochtones et des Affaires du Nord. En tant que ministre de Justice, je veillerai au respect de la loi dans l'administration des affaires publiques. En tant que procureur général du Canada, je ferai respecter la Constitution, le prometteur de droit et l'indépendance de la magistrature et de la fonction de poursuite.
The Honourable Richie Valdez, Chief Government Whip. L'Honorable Richie Valdez, Whip du chef du gouvernement.
Mabuhay. I, Richie Valdez, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will truly and faithfully and to the best of my skill and knowledge execute the powers and trusts reposed in me as Chief Government Whip. Moi, Richie Valdez, je promets et jure solennellement et sincèrement que, mieux de ma compétence et ma connaissance, j'exécuterai loyalement et fidèlement les pouvoirs et je m'acquitterai des responsabilités qui m'ont été confiées en qualité de whip en chef du gouvernement.
L'Honorable Stephen Garrett McKinnon, Ministre de l'Emploi et des Familles. The Honorable Stephen Garrett McKinnon, Minister of Jobs and Families.
Moi, Stephen Garrett McKinnon, je promets et jure solennellement et sincèrement qu'au mieux de ma compétence et de ma connaissance, j'exécuterai loyalement et fidèlement les pouvoirs et je m'acquitterai des responsabilités qui m'ont été confiées en qualité de ministre de l'Emploi et des Familles. I, Stephen Garrett McKinnon, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will truly and faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trusts reposed in me as Minister of Jobs and Families.
L'Honorable David Joseph McGuinty, Ministre de la Sécurité publique et de la Protection civile. The Honorable David Joseph McGuinty, Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness.
Moi, David Joseph McGuinty, je promets et jure solennellement et sincèrement qu'au mieux de ma compétence et de ma connaissance, j'exécuterai loyalement et fidèlement les pouvoirs et je m'acquitterai des responsabilités qui m'ont été confiées en qualité de ministre de la Sécurité publique et de la Protection civile. I, David Joseph McGuinty, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will truly and faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and the trusts reposed in me as Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Terry Duguid, Minister of Environment and Climate Change. L'Honourable Terry Duguid, Ministre de l'Environnement et du Climat. Changement climatique.
I, Terry Gordon Duguid, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will truly and faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trusts reposed in me as Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Moi, Terry Gordon Duguid, je promets et jure solennellement et sincèrement qu'au mieux de ma compétence et de ma connaissance, j'exécuterai loyalement et fidèlement les pouvoirs et je m'acquitterai des responsabilités qui m'ont été confiées en qualité de ministre de l'Environnement et du Changement climatique.
The Honourable Nathaniel Erskine Smith, Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities. L'Honorable Nathaniel Erskine Smith, Ministre du Logement, de l'Infrastructure et des Collectivités.
I, Nathaniel Erskine Smith, do solemnly and sincerely promise and declare that I will truly and faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trusts reposed in me as Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
L'Honorable Rachel Bendayen, Minister de l'Immigration, des Réfugiés et de la Citoyenneté. The Honourable Rachel Bendayen, Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Moi, Rachel Bendayen, je promets et déclare solennellement et sincèrement qu'au mieux de ma compétence et de ma connaissance, j'exécuterai loyalement et fidèlement les pouvoirs et je m'acquitterai des responsabilités qui m'ont été confiées en qualité de ministre de l'Immigration, des Réfugiés et de la Citoyenneté. I, Rachel Bendayen, do solemnly and sincerely promise and declare that I will truly and faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trusts reposed in me as Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship. Thank you.
L'Honorable Elisabeth Brière, Ministre des Anciens Combattants et des ministres responsables de l'Agence de revenus du Canada. The Honourable Elizabeth Brière, Minister of Veterans Affairs and Minister responsible for the Canadian Revenue Agency.
Moi, Elisabeth Brière, je promets et déclare solennellement et sincèrement qu'au mieux de ma compétence et de ma connaissance, j'exécuterai loyalement et fidèlement les pouvoirs et je m'acquitterai des responsabilités qui m'ont été confiées en qualité de ministre des Anciens combattants et ministre responsable de l'Agence du revenu du Canada. I, Elisabeth Brière, do solemnly and sincerely promise and declare that I will truly and faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trusts reposed in me as Minister of Veterans Affairs and Minister responsible for the Canada Revenue Agency. The Honourable Joanne Thompson, Minister of Fisheries, Oceans and the Canadian Coast Guard.
L'honorable Joanne Thompson, ministre des Pêches, des Océans et la Garde côtière canadienne.
I, Joanne Thompson, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will truly and faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trusts reposed in me as Minister of Fisheries, Oceans, and the Canadian Coast Guard.
Ariel Kayabaga, Leader of the Government in the House of Commons and Minister of Democratic Institutions. Ariel Kayabaga, Leader du gouvernement dans la Chambre des communes et Ministre de l'Institution démocratique.
I, Ariel Kayabaga, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, King of Canada, his heirs and successors. Moi, Ariel Kayabaga, je jure fidélité et sincère allégeance à Sa Majesté le roi Charles III, roi du Canada et ses héritiers et successeurs. I, Ariel Kayabaga, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I shall be a true and faithful servant to His Majesty King Charles III as a member of His Majesty Private Council for Canada, and I will in all things be treated, debated, and resolved in private council faithfully, honestly, and I truly declare my mind and opinion. I shall keep secret all matters committed and revealed to me in this capacity, or that Moi, Ariel Kayabaga, je jure solennellement et sincèrement que j'agirai en fidèle et loyal serviteur de Sa Majesté le roi Charles III, en ma qualité de membre de conseil privé de Sa Majesté pour le Canada. J'exprimerai fidèlement, honnêtement et en toute vérité mon sentiment, mon opinion et sur toute chose traitée, débattue et résolue en conseil. Je tiendrai secret tout ce qui me sera confié ou révélé en cette qualité, ou tout ce dont il sera traité secrètement en conseil. J'agirai en toutes circonstances comme il convient à un fidèle et loyal serviteur de Sa Majesté. I, Ariel Kayabaga, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will truly and faithfully and to the best of my skill and knowledge execute the powers and trusts reposed in me as the Leader of Government in the House of Commons and the Minister of Democratic Institutions. Moi, Ariel Kayabaga, je promets et jure solennellement et sincèrement qu'au mieux de ma compétence et ma connaissance, j'exécuterai loyalement et fidèlement les pouvoirs et je m'acquitterai des responsabilités qui m'ont été confiées en ma qualité de leader du gouvernement de la Chambre des communes et ministre des institutions démocratiques. Merci.
Cody Blois, Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food and Rural Economic Development. Cody Blois, Ministre de l'Agriculture, de l'agroalimentaire et du Développement économique rural.
I, Cody Douglas Blois, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, King of Canada, his heirs and successors. I, Cody Blois, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I shall be a true and faithful servant to His Majesty King Charles III as a member of His Majesty's Privy Council for Canada. I will in all things be treated, debated, and resolved in Privy Council, faithfully, honestly, and truly declare my mind and my opinion. I shall keep secret all matters committed and revealed to me in this capacity, or that shall be secretly treated of in council. Generally, in all things, I shall do as a faithful and true servant ought to do for His Majesty. I, Cody Douglas Blois, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will truly and faithfully and to the best of my skill and knowledge execute the powers and trust reposed in me as Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food and Rural Economic Development.
Ali Assasi, Minister of Government Transformation, Public Services and Procurement. Ali Assasi, Ministre de Transformation du gouvernement, des services publics et de l'approvisionnement.
I, Ali Cyrus Assasi, do declare that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, King of Canada, his heirs and successors. I, Ali Cyrus Assasi, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I shall be a true and faithful servant to His Majesty King Charles III as a member of His Majesty's Privy Council for Canada. I will, in all things to be treated, debated, and resolved in Privy Council, faithfully, honestly, and truly declare my mind and my opinion. I shall keep secret all matters committed and revealed to me in this capacity, or that shall be secretly treated of in council. Generally, in all things, I shall do as a faithful and true servant ought to do for His Majesty. I, Ali Cyrus Assasi, do solemnly and sincerely promise and declare that I will truly and faithfully and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trusts reposed in me as Minister of Government Transformation, Public Services, and Procurement.
The Governor General, the Prime Minister, and the Clerk of the Privy Council will now sign the oath books to formally witness the swearing in of these ministers. Please join me in congratulating the ministers. Merci, thank you. The Governor General will now entrust the Great Seal of Canada to the custody of the Registrar General of Canada. Le Gouverneur général confiera maintenant le Grand Sceau du Canada à la garde du Registre général du Canada. Will the Registrar General please come forward? I now invite Métis Elder Vito Westlake to offer closing words. J'invite maintenant aîné Métis Vito Westlake à prononcer des mots de clôture.
Nancy, we'll close with a prayer of gratitude. We thank you, Creator, for this day and for the democratic processes that have provided us with strong leadership, a new Prime Minister, and a new Cabinet. We acknowledge and express gratitude for Canada and the Canadian values that sustain all of us, that provide us with freedoms within these values to help us become our best selves. We acknowledge and express gratitude for the Indigenous peoples of Canada who have always been the caretakers and protectors of our lands and waters, and who, generation after generation, have welcomed newcomers to their territories and provided them with a place of safety, security, and peace. We acknowledge and express gratitude for the ongoing commitment of Canadians to one another, to provide each other with necessities in times of need, for our commitment to education, social supports, and health services for everyone. We thank you also for the inclusivity of our cultural mosaic and our ongoing commitment to fight racism and discrimination wherever we find it. We acknowledge and express gratitude for our children, our families, and communities. We thank you for all of those who work tirelessly to ensure that our borders, our waters, and lands are healthy, protected, and that we are safe. We thank you for those who work tirelessly in the areas of climate change and climate change adaptation. As we welcome a new Prime Minister and a new Cabinet, we ask that you guide their steps and those of all of us in the days ahead as we work for the well-being of Canada and Canadians and for the well-being of our lands, waters, and the living beings living with us here on these, their traditional territories. We ask that our circle be strong, that our nation be healthy, strong, safe, and secure. Chi miigwech for all that you have given us. Merci.
Mesdames et messieurs, veuillez vous lever si vous le pouvez et vous joindre à Michel Carty pour chanter l'hymne national. Et veuillez demeurer à vos places pour le départ de leurs excellences, du Premier ministre et des membres du 30e Conseil des ministres. Merci de votre participation à cette cérémonie today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being here today. Will you please rise if you are able to join Michael Carty in singing of the national anthem today? And following the anthem, please remain at your places for the departure of Their Excellencies, the Prime Minister, and members of the 30th Canadian Ministry.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love